Hello out there, my name is Laolu Akode and you are on to Inside Sources. But first, here is my take for the day. I'm looking at two things. The first one is entitled, Before We All Crucify Dele Farotimi. We should ask ourselves the question, are we entitled as a people to a fair, objective judicial process that interrogates those allegations that Mr. Farotimi has made in that his controversial book? There are allegations, no doubt, but the weight of those allegations, do they require us to seek and pursue a fair and honest, transparent, objective judicial process to interrogate them indeed, whether they are true or not? Before we crucify Dele Farotimi, should we already conduct ourselves in a way that suggests that he or his action is condemnable, even before we know the truth or lack of it regarding those weighty, even seemingly wild allegations? Should we just act as though he should already begin to serve punishment right away? Because that is what is happening now. He was harassed and arrested in a manner that was not tidy. And even the police procedure were reportedly breached. And he's clearly beginning to suffer punishment, even before we get the opportunity for interrogating the issues and the allegations that he raised in that book. All of us, before we start to crucify Dele Farotimi, should we not ask ourselves whether he's due for punishment, even before the judges can make a statement in this matter? Then should we not ask ourselves, what kind of society do we aspire for? Before we crucify Dele Farotimi, should we not ask ourselves, do we want the rule of law and the rule of law under a democratic system? If yes, why do we still keep those colonially oppressive legal instruments intact? Is that not why we must dove our hearts for the people of Lagos and Edo states that have decriminalized defamation in their criminal code? And we must pause to give kudos to such people, like the then Lagos State Governor, who is now the President, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We must praise him. And we must praise his then Attorney General, former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo SAN, and those in Edo who ensured that the criminal defamation is out of the code in their states. Because they clearly understand that our aspiration as free Nigerians is to move away from the colonial vestiges where the colonialists considered us as less than human beings, certainly not free people. When we were perceived as enslaved subjects, that was the use of the criminal defamation. But we still have those codes in 34 states. The question now is, in those states, are their leaders still aspiring to deal with Nigerian citizens as though they are under colonial rule or enslaved subjects? Or why is the criminal defamation still in the books in those states? 64 years after Nigeria's independence, are Nigerians in any and every of those states in this federation, are they entitled to a life where their fundamental human rights are affirmed and protected as it's meant to be, since they are not enslaved subjects? Because that was the purpose of the colonial legal statutes that gave us criminal defamation. It's an important thing to think about before we crucify Farotimi, without first telling ourselves that we deserve a fair, objective judicial process that appropriately interrogates the claims that he's making. And the second point is still on the tax reforms. We want to encourage the negotiations that have started between the executive arm of government and National Assembly on the tax reform bills that the Mr. President sent. This is what we have always said here, when we say that the National Assembly is the proper forum for the widest possible and most effective form of consultation, not the Governor's Forum. And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, as we continue the conversation on the future of our great country, I have with me an indomitable voice in national discourse, pushing for freedom and calling the government and all of us to order, especially on issues of human rights. I'd like to welcome Mr. Inibehe Effiong to Inside Sources.
Good to be with you, Mr. Konde.
I'm delighted to have you here in the studio. Your voice is indomitable, and we like to engage with young people who have a clear understanding of where our country should be going. So thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
My pleasure being with you.
All right. So we normally start the conversation around the future of the country. You know? So I'd like to ask you, if you look at where we are today, where will you say Nigeria is going to? Do you think we are headed for that great country that all of us dream is the destiny of our country?
What's the question? I think at the risk of being perceived as, being pessimistic, Nigeria today is an entity lacking in definition. We are still struggling to define Nigeria. What does Nigeria mean? What does Nigeria mean to a man from the southeast, for example? What does Nigeria mean to the Muslim North? What does Nigeria mean to a Yoruba man from Ibadan? What does Nigeria mean to the ruling class, the senators and the House of Reps members that are collecting millions monthly? What does Nigeria mean to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? What does Nigeria mean to Iniberefion? What does Nigeria mean to Mr. Lolo Akonde? I think Nigeria has not been defined. Nigeria is an entity that is swimming in the ocean of lack of identity. Nigeria does not have an identity. And I say that with all sense of responsibility. And that is largely because those we call our founding fathers, the Azikiwes, the Awolowo, the Sardauna, and the rest, I do not think they have succeeded in defining this country, in laying a foundation for a nation state. So much of the crises that we are facing today, they are foundational crises. And that is why year after year, 64 years, Nigeria just marked 64 years of independence. Independence in quotes, right? We are still struggling to define a structure of governance. We are still struggling to define the geographical structure, the relationship between what is supposed to be the component units, what is supposed to be a federation. We are still struggling with the very basics. And quite tragically for us as a country, the political class has not appreciated the urgency of now. They have not come to a decision that this country needs fundamental changes, that this country needs a new constitution. So what do you have? You have a situation where every 4 years, every National Assembly, right, basically embarks on what looks like a very profitable venture called constitutional amendment. It has been commercialized. Constitutional amendment in Nigeria has become a commercial exercise. They budget billions for it. That is why, whether it is Lawan, whether it is David Mark, whoever is the Senate President or the Speaker of the House of Reps, in the last few years, all of them want to embark on constitutional amendment because it is very profitable. But guess what? What they are doing is simply window dressing. No serious country embarks on constitutional amendment every 4 years. The constitution of a country is supposed to be the organic law. It is supposed to be the fons et origo, as we students of constitutional law will say.
Which means?
It is supposed to be the fons et origo. That is the document that gives lives.
The grand norm.
The grand norm of the country that gives lives to every other legal instrument. But guess what? Our own constitution is now being tinkered with
every 4 years.
Every 4 years. It simply doesn't make sense. What that shows is that there is a problem, and they don't want to go to the root of it. And they're not even willing to answer the main questions of governance.
Which is?
What kind of country do we want to be? What system of governance do we want? Is this so-called presidential system working? Is there a need for a bicameral legislature? Why do we need to have a Senate and a House of Reps? Why do we need to have one Supreme Court where if I quarrel with my landlord in Lagos, I can take the tenancy matter to the Supreme Court in Abuja? Why can't we have a truly decentralized system of governance? What we need, and I say that very seriously, we need to get to a point where we can have I don't think the 1999 constitution will solve our problem. I think we need a brand new constitution that is a product of the people, not these documents that tells a lie about itself, that proclaims itself and say, we the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But we know that the 1999 constitution is degree 24. It's a military degree that Abdusalam Abubakar handed over to us.
But some of the protagonists say that 1999 constitution or 1998 actually, or 1999, came out of 1979, which had a Constituent Assembly, just to say that it's not really completely something that was entirely...
No, even the Constituent Assembly, even the 1979 Constitution, go and look at how it came about. You had Dele Farotimi and others that were given a mandate by the military to put it together. Did it truly reflect the will of the Nigerian people?
Okay,
but we are dealing with the 1999 Constitution today, and they have seen that it is unworkable. And that is why, as I said, the constitutional amendment process in Nigeria has been commercialized. Nobody is able to account for the money they are making. Every 4 years. Go and ask Akpabio today for a budget of the National Assembly. Go and ask the Speaker how much they are spending on constitutional amendments. They cannot tell you. So we need to really go back and address the issue. But guess what? Finally, on that point, the real problem of our country today, 64 years after independence,
right,
is a problem that Chinua Achebe had diagnosed in his book, The Trouble with Nigeria. It is clearly that of leadership. So today, our country is in peril. Our country is on a free fall, politically, economically, culturally. We are unable to set a pace, to set a direction. And what makes this particularly painful for people of my generation is that I have lived the last 3 decades not seeing a country that is functional. And I'm now living in morbid fear that my children will inherit a dysfunctional country. That is a pain that I suffer every day as a young Nigerian. The fact that my father bequeathed to me a Nigeria that is dysfunctional, and I'm now faced with the reality that my children will inherit Nigeria that is dysfunctional.
Well, let's hope that we will bequeath a greater Nigeria, which is our hope and desire. For which reason I will then ask you. I agree with you that just like Chinua Achebe has said, that the problem in Nigeria is actually leadership. But I wanted to dig into that a little bit deeper. So what is the core problem with leadership? Is it that the leaders, most of the leadership, or a lot of the leadership are corrupt? Or is it that they are not competent? In your own view, what is the main problem with leadership? Because there are quite a number of things that one can say. What's your own view?
We have a leadership, a political class. I don't like calling them elites. I'm not sure we really have political elites in our country, because the elites have a sense of self-awareness, right? A sense of legacy. We don't have elites in our country politically. The main leadership crisis in our country is that those who are politicians, those who hold the rings of power, they are fatalistic in their thinking, they are fatalistic in their approach to governance. And when I say fatalistic, is that they operate from a mindset that, I don't want to be salacious, but they perceive Nigeria as that popular or notorious village prostitutes that every person in the community wants to have a chance with. So they basically look at Abuja as a place that they are coming to take a bite, at the national purse. That is what the Nigeria is about for them. Most of our politicians have mentally seceded from Nigeria, including President Tinubu, I did say. They have seceded from Nigeria. So when they say they are against IPOB, that IPOB is asking for secession, that they don't want secession, they don't want the Yoruba movement agitators, to ask for secession, those who are holding power in our country, they have seceded. And what I mean by secession is that in their mind, they feel entrapped in Nigeria. That is why when they are sick, they go abroad for treatment. They send their children abroad. They acquire all their assets abroad. They are basically left Nigeria. But their physical body is just in Nigeria for the purpose of illicit accumulation of wealth.
Wow.
This speaks to acute lack of patriotism. And that is simply it. They are not patriotic. They don't believe in the country. That is why no matter how we go about this, no matter all the efforts they are claiming to be making, they still continue to fail because they simply do not love Nigeria. They don't believe in our country. So corruption, yes, is part of the problem. But the question is, why are they corrupt? Are they corrupt because they are not comfortable? Are you not see EFCC coming out to say that some people were able to acquire about 753 duplexes? A few people in a country that people are living in slums under the bridge, in a country that people cannot feed. So the problem is not that these are people that, it is a product of a diseased mind. Many of our politicians, it has become pathological for them, a sickness.
Is it not in the interest of the political class, if they want to preserve themselves, to find a reasonable way to draw the country back from a precipice? I mean, that seems to me a commonsensical approach, because if indeed the country is heading for a precipice, if it's not withdrawn, all of us, even including you, anybody that dressed, in a way they say this is, we are at a risk. So is it not in the interest of the political class? Is it not in the interest of all of us who have a little bit of success in life, a little bit of exposure, to try and figure out how to, prevent what could be a catastrophe?
I told you earlier, Mr. Konde, I said our political class is fatalistic. They are fatalistic. They are people that are willing to die than to see the country change. Because mentally, you need to understand the psychology of those in power. They have seceded from the country. And I also told you that we don't have elites, political elites. Yes, in the US, there are issues with corruption. There are issues with, corporate interests, funding elections. They have their own problems. In the UK, there is no country. Look at even South Korea today that is facing political crisis. Yeah. There is no country that is insulated from political crisis. But what saves those countries, what makes them civilized, is that within the elites, they understand that this entity must be preserved for our own collective interest. But in Nigeria, those that are the commanding heights of political power and economic power, they don't simply believe that Nigeria is capable of functioning. That is why every opportunity that they have, they acquire assets abroad.
Well, a lot of them still, I see your point, but a lot of them still live here. They have houses here, So in a sense, you're right that, people go abroad, especially for medical, but they also live here, and what I'm trying to say is that I think they have significant interest, even let's say selfish personal interest, to, in my view, try to figure out how do we even preserve this.
Well, that is interest in the interest of a factory worker. And this factory worker, in this sense, unfortunately, is not one that is producing or manufacturing for the benefit of the larger consumers. It is one that is producing for self-enrichment. It is like, for them, Nigeria is just an enterprise. That is what it is about. Because how do you explain what is happening in our country? That, leave the president, leave the National Assembly aside, Mr. Konde. Look at our governors. I keep saying, governors in Nigeria are worse than the president.
I believe so, many of them.
Most of our governors are more corrupt than the president. At the national level, you can have some pretension of dissent, of opposition. You can have, we have in the National Assembly today, even within lawmakers on the platform of the APC, opposing the tax reform bill. You cannot have that at the state level. None. There is none of the 36 states. Not Zamfara, not Lagos, not Akwa Ibom, not anywhere. There is no state in Nigeria today. Not Abia, not in one state.
Yeah, possibly. There are places where you have quite a bit of press awareness and a lot of contending interest, like Lagos.
I'm saying that, go and check.
I'm saying that.
Go and check.
I don't disagree with you.
There is no single state in Nigeria today where a governor can be checkmated. Not even one.
What about Lagos?
Who is checkmating Sanwo-Olu? When they are fighting, it is about sharing of allocation. It is about resource distribution within themselves.
We've seen quite a few, issues between the speaker.
I'm saying that those issues are not issues of checkmating him, for example, to determine whether the resources of Lagos is being properly managed. Go and look at the things they are fighting about. I mean, these people are simply running the country down. And you know my fear.
Right.
The clock is ticking. They are not aware. They are not seeing their handwriting.
And that's the point I was making to you. But you said that they are prepared to die.
I'm saying that the clock is ticking. And I am afraid that one day it will be too late. Because some of us are raising alarm. Some of us are crying in the wilderness. They are not interested in listening to you. The country is struggling. The country is in recession. Look at the inflation. The government are still acquiring vehicles. Government are still spending billions on frivolous things. And when they are doing this thing, it is non-partisan. It doesn't matter whether the governor is PDP or APC. They are all doing the same thing. Look at our legislators. Even the judiciary. Some section of the judiciary. We have a problem that is so huge. And I am sad that there is no sense of urgency, that things are bad.
Yeah, Mr. Effiong, just because of our time, I wanted us to talk about, the judiciary. You are a lawyer. I wanted you to talk about what kind of reforms, do you think are priority in the judiciary? But before we get there, I wanted your comment on what is happening right now in Ekiti State.
Yes.
We have a situation where the police received a petition, from a senior lawyer, legal luminary, Chief Afeba Balola, SAN.
Yes.
And then on the basis of that, went cross-border from Ekiti to come and pick Dele Farotimi in Lagos.
Yes.
Taken straight to Ekiti. Next day, presented before a magistrate court, and is now remanded, denied bail.
Yes.
For issue of libel. And now he's being tried for criminal defamation. What's your take, first of all, on this?
First, the so-called offense of criminal defamation is not a serious offense.
What do you mean it's not a serious offense?
I mean, even if, assuming you were to be convicted, it's not an offense that you will spend years in prison.
Okay.
Yes.
1 year?
Maybe 2. So it's not like a serious felony that you will spend 17 years. So it's not even something that people should be so terrified about. But I, in principle, have always been opposed to criminalization of defamation. Now, my concern is that it looks like those who are going after Dele Farotimi are determined to vindicate him. Because if a man is coming out to speak in a very acerbic language about the institution that is a member, the judiciary.
Right.
I would have thought, common sense detects that if somebody is criticizing or antagonizing the judiciary and is not subjected to the same judiciary, that for the sake of preserving that institution should be self-aware that it's not only this person that is on trial, that the judiciary itself is on trial. So it should be mindful of the need to avoid anything that will give a semblance of impropriety. Because if somebody is accusing the judiciary of wrongdoing, and you are now abusing the same judicial process just to prove a point, you are saying the person is right. Now, I'm not surprised that the police will do what they did. The police in Nigeria is incapable of reform. And I've always said, it's incapable of reform.
Wow.
The police is not reformable. And I said that without apology. And I can give you reasons. To begin with, we just had the Police Act 2020 passed a few years ago. So that nobody will say, oh, the problem is legislation.
Yeah.
Because we used to have Cap P9, Laws of the Federation 2004, which was repealed. And we had a new Police Act in 2020.
Yeah.
If you read the new Police Act, it is to a large extent a fantastic piece of legislation.
Very true. I have.
The reforms in that new act, in fact, under the new Police Act, if you are arrested as a suspect and taken to any police station in Nigeria, the new Police Act says that station should give you the facility, a phone, to call your lawyer and your family. So it says you cannot arrest someone in lieu. If you are looking for Mr. A, you go to his house, you cannot find him. Do not arrest his wife.
Or his children.
It says police should not be used for debt recovery. Go and look at the objective of the new Police Act. It states explicitly that it is anchored on human rights. So the problem is not legislation. The problem is that you have an institution that is still operating, that is unable to shrink itself of its colonial history. The police that we have today is still embedded in the colonial apron that the British handed over when they brought.
But Mr. Effiong, the way I see it is that, you know, with a lot of responsibility, I think the police itself has become a victim of the political powers in our country. Because if an ordinary person were to send a petition to the police, they wouldn't act the way they acted on the petition.
They will if the money is paid.
If the money is
It's about money.
It's about money.
The police in Nigeria has been privatized.
Or power and influence.
Yes.
But the point that I wanted you to also address is that is it the right thing to do? First of all, arrest him in the manner that he was arrested, and then transferred to Ekiti.
Brazen act of illegality.
And why are we having a criminal defamation instead of a civil suit?
It's brazen act of illegality.
On the part of?
The police. We have what I call the principle of interstate arrest under the law. And this principle is both administrative and judicial. Administratively, under the police regulations, if police is moving from one state to effect an arrest in another state, when they arrive in that state, before they can effect that arrest, they're required to incident that matter in the state they want to effect the arrest. Okay. So if police is going from Oyo State, right, to Abia State to effect arrest of a suspect, when they get to Abia State, they must go to the Abia State Police Command to make an entry that we are coming to effect the arrest of so and so person. That is even internally the procedure within the police. This was not done. We are aware.
How do we know that?
We are aware. We've confirmed that the Lagos State Police Command and even the Zone 2 in Lagos were not carried along.
Oh, wow.
They just simply came straight to his office, took him and drove him straight to Ekiti.
Oh, wow.
Yes. That's what we are.
It's also a breach of police regulations.
Yes, but more fundamentally, the provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015 is clear that if they are coming to effect arrest on the basis of a warrant, because they claim, or they were being told that they got a warrant of arrest, for you to effect that warrant, you must take the person before a magistrate in the state of arrest.
Oh, I see.
Yes, they should have taken Dele Farotimi before a magistrate in Lagos.
I see.
To examine the warrant, the order for his arrest, see whether it is lawful, see whether it is regular, and guess what? Under the Act, the ACJ, the magistrate in Lagos even has the power to admit him to bail. He has the power to stop that warrant from being executed. Oh, this was not done.
This is interesting. I didn't even know this.
That is the law. This was not done. And what are they talking about? The man, Chief Afe Babalola SN. I mean, some of us grew up, got into the university to read law, went to law school, called to the Nigerian bar. The name Afe Babalola is like an institution in the legal. It's an institution.
It is.
In the legal profession.
It is.
To his credit, you can't take it away from him.
Absolutely.
I don't know if there's a lawyer today that is older than him or a senior advocate. I mean, he's a father of senior advocates. So I would have thought, and I say this with all sense of responsibility and humility, that at that age, I'm concerned, and I hope someone is listening to me. And I hope Chief himself will have the opportunity to watch this interview. Because I hope that he's mindful of a sense of history and legacy. I don't want this to define him. This case should not be his legacy. If I get to the age of 80, if God preserves my life, and I get to the age of 80 and 85, I'll be circumspect. It is not every offense that I will use a sledgehammer, that I will invoke I will not go and invoke institutions of state at the age of 80. No matter how offensive what Dele Farotimi said was, for a lawyer of his standing, for somebody of the status of Chief Babalola, at that age, someone that owns a university with a faculty of law.
It's a very good one.
One of the best in the country.
Yeah.
Why would you, at that level at that stage of your life, entangle yourself in this kind of embarrassment? Look at what Femi Falana did when the VDM, as they call him, defamed him. What did he do?
Exactly. He went to court.
Femi Falana.
And the civil.
He filed a civil suit. He did not go to the police. And that is supposed to be the provision. So this idea that, you can use the police to prove a point. Have you proved what is the point that has been proven now?
To your point, Mr. Effiong, I have also served in the presidency for 8 years. And there are a number of times, that I could observe president, vice president, governors who were libeled.
Yes.
And I don't remember even, so I'm talking of president, vice president, governors, I don't remember any of them even try to use a criminal defamation. For the most part, many of them, and they even have, they seem to have the powers. So I'm also taken aback by this criminalization of what ought to be a civil case. I mean, and I'm confused. It's why I ask you the question.
The truth of the matter is that, because I hear some lawyers say, criminal defamation is an offense in some states. The truth of the matter is that if the so-called offense of criminal defamation that they are talking about were to be activated, if everybody that is defamed were to follow the path of Chief Babalola, all police stations in Nigeria will be filled up in 24 hours.
Absolutely.
Because all you simply need to do is to check what is happening on Twitter. I as a person, I am defamed on a daily basis on the internet.
Exactly.
So that means that if 10 people defame me in a day, I should have the 10 of them arrested. Chief Babalola could have just simply taken the honorable path. And it is not too late, Chief. It is not too late. Think about legacy. Don't listen to those that are cheering you on. Yeah. This is not going to end well because the way it is going, there is now a perception. And you are taking him to Ekiti. If I'm not mistaken, Afro Babalola is richer than Ekiti State. I believe so. I genuinely believe he's richer than Ekiti State.
I believe so.
So, what justice is Dele Farotimi going to get? Which fair trial will he get? And then he was arraigned before a magistrate.
Yeah.
On a what offense? And application for bail was made, and the court said no, go and put it in writing in a magistrate court, and you remand him for 1 week, a lawyer, a minister in the Temple of Justice. You say go and bring your application in writing in a court of summary jurisdiction and inferior court of record. So you are already giving the impression from the manner you have arrested him illegally, drove him for hours to Lagos, you assaulted staff in his office, seized phones of lawyers, created panic all over the place. So his rights have been violated from the point of arrest to this moment. So what are we talking about? If you want to seek redress, if you are saying someone has offended you, you don't need to weaponize and abuse institutions to pursue or ventilate your grievance.
Thank you so much, Imbe. I mean, just to add as we conclude, what I think is happening is that, yes, of course, Dele Farotimi made allegations which ought to be tested in court. I hope he's prepared. But it will seem to me, Imbe, that he's already being punished for the so-called allegations even before the court can hear the matter. It seems the man is being punished already.
In fact, in the petition of Chief Babalola that has been published, in his petition to the police, the concluding paragraph, he asked the police to confiscate copies of the books. What is the business of the police with that?
Does the police have such...
They don't! They don't!
All right.
So I am saying that we need to be careful. Because this institution called the police, every single day, before I came here this morning, I was reading a publication on Daily Trust where the IG is saying that the judiciary is sick and weak. The same police that has made the judiciary sick and weak. The same IG whose institution is not obeying court orders, is detaining Nigerians illegally. The police is the major culprit of the bastardization of our judicial process, the bastardization of our correctional service. So we need to be careful the points to which we want to destroy this institution.
Okay, last point, last question because of our time, and I wanted you to address it to the president. In terms of judiciary reforms, what will you say to the president ought to happen if you had to give him an advice? And then generally, state of the nation, what word do you have, what counsel do you have for the president?
I'm not optimistic about Tinubu's regime or Tinubu's presidency. I don't have any shred of hope that this president will change Nigeria. And whoever is having that hope is sleeping. When they wake up, they should tell us. This Tinubu...
Not everybody.
No, I'm being honest. This Tinubu will not change Nigeria. By 2027, we will still be talking about these issues. He's talking about tax reform. And I said, is Tinubu a reform-centric president? Why the obsession? Why is it only tax? Why not judicial reform? Why not police reform?
That's why.
Why not electoral reform?
That's why I said that. What counsel do you have to him? Because
I don't have. Look, you want me to advise someone that is not interested in advice? This president. Look, some of us have accepted the reality that all that we can do is to continue to speak.
But he did reform the judiciary in Lagos when he was governor. To his credit.
Well, I don't want us to get to the argument of what that reform was about. What I am telling you today is that if this president is truly interested in reform, you know where he will start? NNPC. But I just hope that maybe someday, some shred of miracle, because only a miracle can make Tinubu change Nigeria. Because the structure that brought him to power, the forces that he's loyal to, the interest that is sustaining him in that office, would not allow him to bring reforms. And his body language does not show somebody that understands the urgency. The judiciary has to be the institution that will reform itself. The current Chief Justice of Nigeria had the golden opportunity. A golden opportunity. Because we once had the first female Chief CJN, Honorable Justice Mary Amonta. We speak glowingly about her today. Her legacy, she's so respected. So I am just praying that and believing that my Lord will follow that path and begin to take measures. Mr. Konde, you go to some courts, not all judges, the judges that are giving the judiciary a bad name, they will be the one to taunt to go to NJC. So we need to reform the NJC. I have had a judge, you know my own experience with the judiciary.
Yeah,
I'm talking to you, yes, in Akwa Ibom. I'm talking to you today as a victim of the Nigerian judicial system.
Yeah.
I was sent to prison for a month without being told what I had done. All the things you were hearing about contempt of court, those things were just fairy tales. They never happened.
Do you think some of the things that Dele Farotimi wrote about the judiciary, some of it has a bit of life?
I have experienced the judicial malfunction. I'm a victim of the weaponization of the judicial process. So I may not have written, okay, let me say this. So the day I will now write my own book about my experience in Akwa Ibom, that means they will use the military to arrest me. Yes, because one day I believe that history has a responsibility to hear from me. There are things that happen that I've never said publicly.
Wow.
That I've never said on TV. The day people will hear it, they will be shocked. So I hope that the Chief Judge of Ekiti and the entire Ekiti State Judiciary is mindful that the eyes of the nation are upon them. The whole world is watching.
The world, yeah.
Just give the man a fair trial. Don't give the impression that, he's not above the law, but he should also not be under the law. Why would you, for offense of defamation, you cannot even grant him bail on his self-recognizance? Even if you don't want to grant him bail on self-recognizance, you cannot grant him bail on liberal terms as required by law. You are saying they should go and make a formal written application for bail. So, what do you want the man, the right-thinking man, observer, to say?
To say about the judiciary. Thank you so much, Inubehe Efeong, for your very, very compelling contribution. And thank you for being an indomitable voice. And it's your experience in Akwa Ibom that made me to know that you are indomitable. Because if you went there and you see how to simulate in your voice, it shows courage. Thank you for your courage.
Thank you for having me.
I believe that there's hope. That's where we are. We are slightly different, but we have the same goal in mind, that this country we attain its destiny. I believe it, and that's why I'm doing Inside Sources. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. On this second segment, we want to talk about the president's trip. The president has been in quite a few places in the last several weeks, and I have with me the Senior Special Assistant on Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ademola Oshodi. Mr. Oshodi, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much, Laulu.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, can you just give us a little gist of the highlights, or the takeaways of the president's trip? Recently, the president's been to Brazil, he's been to South Africa, he's been to Paris.
Yes.
What will you say are the highlights of these trips that could possibly excite the Nigerian people?
Thank you. The biggest highlight would be the statement that Nigeria is open for business. The president went to those three countries you mentioned to encourage foreign direct investment into Nigeria, to encourage partnership in mutually beneficial areas, and in many cases to also ensure that we basically hold our place and increase our place in the global space. Issues of diplomacy and Nigeria's right and position in the global south,
right,
in Africa, and in the trade with Europe. It's very key points the president made there. And Laulu, the president was very successful. He got a lot of commitments for foreign investments. I know in Brazil there was this $2.5 billion on livestock investment. There was a letter of intent signed in that new area of focus by the administration.
That's a commitment of $2.5 billion.
Exactly.
That's from Brazil.
From Brazil. From
the business
business community.
Okay.
So that's massive. That's very good.
Is it from one interest, or that's a collection of?
It's one major company.
Okay.
But that major company obviously has subsidiaries and investments from other Brazilian companies, but it's one major company.
And that would be in the area of agriculture?
Agriculture on livestock.
On livestock, okay.
So, we need to obviously have a more organized fashion with the livestock industry rather than the nomads that we are, the nomadic industry that we have in Nigeria at the moment.
Right.
And in France, huge commitment. We have the 300 million euros for the Greek and a Greek space in Nigeria, which the French government signed with the Nigerian government. It's more like a financial assistance. And we have the UNESCO institute being built in Abuja, where the French government helped initiate. So these are very landmark achievements by the president, and it is good. I mean, South Africa, you can talk about the long history Nigeria has had with South Africa, going down the apartheid time, and also Mandela and the rest, even, the South African government fighting the military rule in Nigeria. But President Bola Tinubu went there for business. And we got a lot of commitments regarding all the investments coming in, South African investments expanding. But more importantly, Nigeria's need South Africa's need to open up the economy more for Nigerian investors. The Dangotes and the Access banks are there already. But there are other people more interested in investing in that space. South Africa has a trade deficit with Nigeria, with a crude export to South Africa.
Interesting.
So it's good. It's Nigeria is open for business.
Okay. Yeah. Exciting. Okay. So, quite a few issues that we can take from there.
Yep.
But I want to start from the personal angle. It seems that the president hit it off very well with the president of France. Now, what do you think is responsible for that?
I'll tell you right now that it's in France. Nigeria had this long history with France, especially the fact that Nigeria is surrounded by French-speaking countries, so it's very strategic. And Nigeria is taking full advantage, or maybe France, is taking full advantage of this geopolitical shift. The French Francophone countries in Africa, and really shutting their doors to France and removing military assistance that France provides. So for whatever reason, but Nigeria's relationship with France is mutual. We don't have the colonial history. We don't have any cultural relation, but we can take advantage of this, whereby France is not getting acceptance in parts of Africa, but Nigeria is always open, and France can be one of the competing countries that can be come and invest in Nigeria, and Nigeria invest in France, vice versa.
Right. So, sorry for interrupting. And the reason why I brought up that personal stuff is that, of course, clearly you could see that there's chemistry. But of course, the flip side of it is that people say that, oh, look, I mean, at the time when France is losing some of its relationship, I think from Guinea, Niger,
Mali,
Burkina Faso, Mali, that is why, that's why France is eventually opening up to Nigeria. How do you respond to that?
Yes, it's partly, but there's also that the opportunities that the Nigerian space provides. Nigerian economy has been opened up by the president. Opportunities to invest in Nigeria. It's not just France. There's also the Chinese, the Brazilians. There's the Indians. It's a lot of investment coming in. But France, being a European power and being relatively new to, I would say, compared to the British, to the Americans, is expanding on their investment. They already have, I think, they have more investments in Nigeria than even the UK, I believe. So it's an opportunity for France to take advantage of. It's business. It is purely business. And it's mutual. People in Francophone countries will say, France has been very imposing, it affects their sovereignty. But not in Nigeria. It's a mutual symbiotic relationship at Johannesson.
I think certainly the visit to Paris, and to South Africa, even to Brazil, is good for the president. Clearly, even at a time when some of his predecessors, at least one of them, is saying that Nigeria is a failed state. It's good to see the president in front of the global leaders that matter. And the reason why I bring that up is that, and just like you said, Nigeria is not a country that can be ignored, based on the sheer number, and what that entails. And I believe, and this is my view, I'll let you make your comment after that, I believe that with the strength of our economy, and I'm talking about the numbers, and the resources of our people, the resilience of the Nigerian people, there's no reason why Nigeria shouldn't be doing business in a mutual way that can advance the interest of our people. But we have to put our house in order first.
Absolutely. That's why we have the reforms. We have the President Bola Tinubu led administration reforms. The reforms are very painful, as you probably know, but they're necessary. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect same results. So you know how that old cliche goes. So we have those reforms. Those reforms are necessary. It's basically attracted investors. It showed the international community, especially the business community, that Nigeria is serious. Nigeria is serious. Nigeria has finally been able to bite the bullet and make those take those difficult steps. So with those reforms, I remember writing a piece in the paper, and I was comparing it historically to other reformers in the past that had a lot of kickback to. You talk about in China, when they opened up the economy with Jia Jianming, just after President Mao died. And, they changed their whole system, and from the capitalist to more open market economy. And it was very painful. But look at China now. We talk about, Russia's Boris Yeltsin from a Soviet economy, when everything was subsidized bread and everything, fuel. Now it's, and there was chaos in that period. You remember the Chechen war and everything. Because there wasn't even a coup plot. So it transformed the Russian economy. Obviously, Russia is a different situation right now. And then you talk about Margaret Thatcher, the Thatcherites. She broke the back of the unions. She removed the welfare state of the British economy, where everybody was expecting subsidies or expecting tax rebate or, the massive coal miners strike. I don't know. I love history, so I know all these things.
I'm a bit of history too.
Yes. So President Bola Tinubu is taking Nigeria through a reform process that is rather painful.
Yeah,
but it is very, very
clearly. I mean, I think that the president gets credit for his boldness and courage. And it's not a new thing. We've always known that he's a bold politician. The problem, though, and I would like you to address it, Mr. Oshodi, is that for the most part, Nigerians don't feel that they are in the same boat with the president. People agree, it makes sense that, look, we have to take tough decisions. Look, this subsidy regime is clearly going, it's a drain on the economy. But they don't feel that the president is also tightening his belt. Shouldn't the president do a little bit more to show that he also, and his administration, members of his government, and not just president alone, even some of the governors, to show the Nigerian people that, hey, we too, we are tightening our belt. What do you think?
I believe he's tightening his belt. I remember a while back, there was a statement whereby he cut down people following him with foreign travels, entourage. There was also the issues around many agencies. There's going to be a streamline of this agency with the Oresa report. So all these things are taking shape. And there's also more of accountability. So each minister or ministry has this level of accountability whereby, how do you spend your money? What are your KPIs? So there's a conscious effort to ensure that governance is not too expensive and it's not larger than other people. So it's there. But I want to clearly state that coming from where we're coming from, Nigeria, President Tinubu's reform has brought tremendous amount of FDI, foreign direct investment.
Already?
There's 30 billion. There's like 30 billion.
Promises.
30 billion. A lot of them are in the country. A lot of them, petrochemical, agriculture, a lot of them are in the country. It's things you can fact check. Yeah. So it's where those reforms manifest to. So it's painful, but it's bringing money in, and we can see the change in obviously the oil production has jumped up from 1.5 to 1.8 and hovering a bit, million barrels a day.
We're going to get it to 2 million.
We can hopefully get it even higher, but we don't want to depend too much on that industry. Yeah. We want to diversify. That's what got us in trouble here. If oil prices fall, we're in crap. So the key here is to think about how his profile, especially with his foreign travel, has helped bring about needed attention and investment in Nigeria, and possibly provided more security for us, because it's not just economy, as much as I emphasized in the beginning. It's also security. The Biden administration and the French administration need President Tinubu to help with the issues in West Africa, the military governments and things like that. They need Nigeria to lead. They need Nigeria to lead also in the United Nations Security Council. President Biden has said he doesn't see why Nigeria should not be a permanent member of the Security Council. This is a lot from the profile and reforms that they've seen, the seriousness they've seen this government is put in place.
Okay, yeah. Good. Maybe the last question because of our time. It's about something that I think is an improvement, but there's still something that I imagine ought to be done. So, the president went to South Africa, and it was the president of South Africa himself, President Ramaphosa, that announced that they were easing, the visa restrictions for Nigerians.
Yes.
That's a huge improvement on what happened when the president went to Dubai, UAE, and we announced that they were easing the airline issue, and it turns out they came out to say, oh, no, that's not what's happening. So that's a huge improvement, and we must give the administration the kudos, that we got stuff like that sorted out. However, we still don't have ambassadors in these places, Mr. Oshodi. When is the president going to do that? because by having ambassadors, the president, we increase the respect and the regard because they consider those ambassadors as his own personal representatives. We don't have an ambassador in Brazil. We don't have an ambassador in Paris. We don't have an ambassador in South Africa. We don't have in New York. We don't have in Washington, D.C. We don't have in Paris.
Well, thank you. The UAE one you mentioned, it's actually ongoing. I think there is visa arrangements for Nigeria. There's also the flight from, the Emirates flies. So that's really been sorted out. Yeah. Regarding the ambassador thing, yes, it's taken a while. If you notice that even, remember, I should say that is the President Tinubu's predecessor took 20 months to bring out his own ambassadors. President Tinubu recalled his ambassadors in October last year. It's less. It's about a year.
Shouldn't be competing for that.
No, but yes, it's not as bad as it seems if you compare history. Yeah, but I believe that the ambassadors are already about to be announced in the next short time. But what Nigerians should know that President Tinubu and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have sent out charged affairs to many of these countries you mentioned. We've sent out consul generals to those ministries. Those are more admin to those countries, to those missions. Those are more admin staff, but they're also a prelude. Right. They're a prelude to the ambassadors, to the heads of Commonwealth, the High Commission for Commonwealth that would take place. So it is a step. It's coming, and obviously it's necessary, but it's coming. And obviously the government has its reasons. I think the minister and some other people mentioned issues of allocation and things like that.
Right.
We entered a new budgetary year, so I want to believe all that it will take place in the next few weeks. So
I hope so too. It will make a lot of impact, and it will help. Even the president in some of.
But they say the president himself is a great ambassador for the country. His travel, his movement, he does close deals. So I'm not negating the fact that we need the ambassadors or high commissioners. But the president himself is one of the best ambassadors we have. Opening doors and telling people that look, we're open for business, and this is the if you have any challenges, this is my minister, this is the business community. I'm coming with you, coming with me to close deals. So there's that intent, that purpose that in many cases ambassadors cannot even do.
All right, that's it's good to know that, and I think it's not difficult to agree that the president is a D closer. Thank you so much, Mr. Adimola Oshodi, for coming to Inside Sources. And we hope that you will get more and more, we will record more and more successes, both at home and abroad.
Thank you very much, Lalu.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, we believe in Nigeria, that's why we're here, and Nigeria will prevail. We will get to that destination of greatness that we all believe it's been destined for us. My name is Laulu Akonde, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you for watching.